Hello everyone and welcome to the Anime Void. I'm Brian, your host, and as you can tell by the title and thumbnail, I'm going to be talking about my top 10 favorite anime, which I haven't done on this channel already somehow. This list will be in no particular order, though the last 5 are going to definitely be the top 5, the ones that have stayed on this list for years now. If you enjoy this kind of content, be sure to hit the like button, and if you want to stick around, then click the subscribe button as well for more. Without further ado, let's get into this. Number 10. Kill la Kill. Starting off with the most prominent on the thumbnail, Kill la Kill is a 2013 Studio Trigger anime starring the rough-and-tumble Ryuko Matoi. She's off to Honnouji Academy searching for her father's killer and the wielder of the other half of the scissor blade. She is instead met by the goofy and lovable Mako Mankanchoku and the tyrannical regime of Satsuki Kiryun and her Elite Four. Believing that the amazingly stupendous Satsuki knows about her father's death, Ryuko challenges the status quo and public decency as she dons a sentient sailor uniform that she names Senketsu. If you haven't watched this series, I will not spoil all of the twists and turns that the story takes, and trust me, there is a lot. It should go without saying that I highly recommend this series, along with all the ones that I will be talking about later in this video, seeing as they are on this list of favorites. I love Studio Trigger's animation style in general, but there are a lot of choices in this show that make it all the more special, like how Ira is always as big as the scene needs him to be, always fluctuating. And while I'm not one to talk about music too much as it's not my forte, I can say without question that this is one of the best anime soundtracks there is. But what really sells it for me are the characters. They are all so colorful and vibrant, working off of each other in a masterclass of writing. Writing that is so damn good that nearly naked chicks fighting to the death is just set dressing when all is said and done. This is how you not only write fan service into a plot, but also make it meaningful. This is a show that kept me on the edge of my seat, wanting more. The fact that it brought me one of my all-time favorite characters is just icing on the cake.
Fear is freedom! Subjugation is liberation! Contradiction is truth! Those are the facts of this world! And you will all surrender to them! You pigs in human clothing!
Number 9. Kagiasama Love is War. Love is a battlefield, and the 2019 anime Kaguya-sama Love is War takes that to a whole new level. Following the student council of Tsuchin Academy, we see President Miyuki Shirogane and Vice President Kaguya Shinomiya duke it out for heartfelt supremacy, scheming and plotting to make each other confess their undying love first. Brought to us by A1 Pictures, this wacky rom-com won me over fast. Though not a slapstick, the bits and strategies throughout this series have a very Looney Tune-esque feeling. I could easily see Kaguya and Miyuki going through a duck season, rabbit season back and forth within the context of the narrative, and I love that. And speaking of narrative, the narrator.
I think it'll be fun.
We're only 12 minutes into episode 1, but I think we know her well enough to know she's lying.
As if I would really go. Does she grow flowers in her head instead of brain cells?
Yeah, called it.
The narrator is the best character in the show. Along with side-splitting laughs, the story masterfully balances deep and emotional storylines throughout as well. The two sides of the anime never feel like they oppose each other. Rather, they complement each other perfectly. Complex emotions is what love is all about, and the writing matches that in spades. Or, I guess in this case, hearts. I hate myself for that joke.
You will tell me those 3 small words. I love you.
Number 8. That time I got reincarnated as a slime. Given the saturation of isekai anime within the anime sphere as a whole, one of them was bound to make the list, and it could be none other than the 2018 anime from Studio 8-Bit, That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime, or Tensura for short. Following Satoru MiChumi as he is stabbed to death only to be reincarnated as a sentient slime monster with overpowered abilities, this is a whirlwind of an anime. Satoru befriends a very powerful and very tsundere dragon, is renamed Rimuru, and then goes on to play a real-life version of a fantasy version of the game Civilization, only with hacks enabled and a very charming disposition. The beginning of the anime can be a bit slow, largely before the ogres show up, but I truly find it enjoyable from the start. The anime does a decent job at building up a false sense of security for when bigger threats arrive. A lot of the time, we see Rimuru and the gang handle things pretty easily, but they are eventually met with bigger threats. Some that Rimuru gets on his side, and others that stand opposed to him. It does give a there's always a bigger fish vibe, but that isn't necessarily always the point. Not everything is about nail-biting drama and, oh whoa, how are they gonna get out of this? And not everything should be. Sure, it does come up, and it is fun when it does, but mostly it's about the fun characters and what they're about and what they can do. In that regard, it is a bit like Overlord, but also much, much less extreme. In both, we know that Ainz or Rimuru are going to curb stomp whatever threat is before them at the end of it because the main groups are so ridiculously overpowered. Though Tensura, especially in the second season, does give some subversion to that, though I won't give it away. Overall, Tensura is my favorite isekai, and to me is the best of the isekai, just barely beating out Konosuba.
Meanie, you really had me going there for a second, Rimuru.
Number 7. Bofuri, I don't want to get hurt, so I'll max out my defense. Speaking of ridiculously overpowered protagonists, next on the list is Bofuri, I don't want to get hurt, so I'll max out my defense, the 2020 anime from Studio Silverlink. Now, I know what you're thinking. This anime is only 3 years old as of uploading this, and it's on my top 10 list? Yes, it is. The story follows Kaede Honjo, who is roped into playing a VR MMORPG by her best friend Risa. Going by the player named Maple, she's worried about feeling pain in the game world, so she not only takes up the Defender class, but also dumps every single one of her stat points into Vitality, which is her defense. This, accompanied by her unique playstyle, accidentally leads her to get all sorts of rare and insane abilities, and also drive the devs insane. But what's important is that she never once set out to become a literal god of the game. She legitimately is just having fun, which is incredibly refreshing to me. Way too many shows are about tryhards, and then there's Maple, just doing things with her friends and goofing around, stumbling upon ways to turn into a demonic hellspawn, or getting a turtle companion that she names Syrup. Every episode is a what will Maple do next, and it's a fun ride to find out every time.
You spirit cannon!
Number 6. New Game. The last entry before we get into the top 5 is the 2016 anime from Studio Doga Kobo, New Game. This is one of the anime that I have stated several times on this channel is one of my favorites, and is a big inspiration to me. It follows Alba Suzakaze, fresh out of high school and starting her career as a character designer for the small video game company Eagle Jump. There, she not only gets to work on the next installment of her favorite game series, Fairy Story, but she also works under her idol, lead character designer Ko Yagami. From there, Alba makes new friends with her colleagues as she grows and learns the tools of the trade. And, most importantly, she comes to understand what it means to follow your passions and dreams. And that is the core of what I love about this anime. It inspires me to follow my own passions and dreams because Alba is just such a good role model for it. Progression isn't just a linear line, and getting to where you want may not be exactly how you wanted it to be, but you keep going. You keep following that dream, and I want to live by that.
I know that you're a leader that I look up to and one that works harder than anyone else I've ever met. And that's why, if you become the art director for our next game, I will absolutely follow your lead.
And since you've made it this far into the list, why not help me with my progression by hitting the like button? And if you're enjoying everything, why not subscribe as well? Help me hit that 2,000 milestone. Number 5. Fate Zero. Here we are at the top 5, and if you've been on this channel long enough, you knew damn well a Fate series would have to be somewhere on this list. Fate Zero came out in 2011 from Ufotable, or UFO Table if you're nasty, and serves as a prequel to the 3 routes of Fate Stay Night. There is a slight stigmata of saying that Fate Zero is your favorite within the Fate community, and while I understand that it's largely due to the stereotypical Fate Zero fan being pretentious, they are truly no worse than the "you're not a real fan if you don't read the visual novels" gatekeeping crowd. And just like that, I've ensured that this video is getting engagement. The point is, the whole of the Fate fandom is made of pretentious people who will find disdain with another person's preferences and will never be truly happy. Much like Kiritsugu. The story of Fate Zero is a tragedy through and through. It kind of has to be for the various fuckery that goes on in a decade's time. It is understandable that people don't like it being such a downer, and more casual watchers won't care for the fact that they're getting more philosophical discussions than they are battles. But I love those things about it. This series is actually the second I watched from the Fate franchise. The first was Studio Dean's Unlimited Blade Works. And that was such a confusing mess of garbage that it took me over a year to give Fate Zero a try. And when I did, it opened my eyes to what the franchise could be, and I grew to love it fast. Without this anime, I would not be a Fate fan, and this franchise has meant so much to me and led me to so many people. There's no way that Fate Zero wouldn't be my favorite. Number 4. Assassination Classroom. Class is in session. The subject? Saving the world. Assassination Classroom's anime came out in 2015 from Studio Lerche. I think that's how you pronounce that. It centers around the mysterious super being Kuro-sensei and his students in Class 3E. Also known as the End Class, these students have zero prospects and are ostracized from the rest of the student body, enforced by the school's principal. Their very existence is seen as a punishment that other students must avoid. It's actually a slightly exaggerated mirror of how actual school curriculums go and how much pressure it puts on kids and teenagers. It's also a similar concept to what's done in Baka and Test, but this is a good anime. It handles the social commentary masterfully and creates a gripping drama. Mix in the fun antics of a high school slice of life anime, the awe-inspiring feelings of underdogs rising up and claiming their victory, and a thrilling action and espionage of attempting to kill the unkillable, and you got a recipe for success. But more than anything, what brings this anime so high up on this list is the emotional impact. I have watched this anime several times by this point. I know all of the story beats. I can replay scenes in my head clearly, and in spite of that, every time, without fail, it makes me cry, and I cry harder every time.
Goodbye, Karo-sensei.
Goodbye, Nagisa.
Number 3. Best Student Council. I need you to listen to me. I don't care if you've never heard of this anime. You need to listen. I love this show with all of my heart. I will fight tooth and nail for it. If I could get a Puchan puppet, I would, and may God help all of you when I do and reach my final form. Best Student Council comes to us from JC's staff and premiered in 2005, making it the oldest anime on this list. It follows Rino Rondo, a girl who was recently orphaned, as she's off to join Miyagami Academy along with her fateful companion, Puchan, who is a puppet that is seemingly sentient. But that is neither here nor there, because Rino's plans go awry, and the only way she can stay at the academy is to join the Best Student Council. And really, they're your typical student council. They have a strike force, a ninja unit, a sports car, and are more powerful than the teachers. And if you don't think that's typical, you clearly don't watch enough anime. This is admittedly very average. But the wacky and fun characters are what's best about this anime, plus all of the shenanigans they get into. Watch as they fight arson, solve puppet murder cases, and get accused of lesbianism. All that and more in this criminally underrated diamond in the rough.
The president went to Reno Rando's room and did the Paya with her!
Misconnected what?
She was in Reno's room doing the Paya Paya? What's the Paya Paya?
The Paya Paya, you know what it is.
Paya Paya!
Number 2. Oren High School Host Club.
Kiss, kiss, fall in love.
This is what you would call a comfort anime. Oren High School Host Club is a Studio Bones animation that premiered in 2006. I am able to watch this anime all the way through and then immediately start it over from the beginning as soon as the credits roll. It's like a warm, fluffy blanket that I can never get tired of on a calm and chilly winter's night. The story follows the titular Oren High School Host Club, a group of pretty boys at the elite and prestigious Oren Academy, and the cross-dressing tomboy commoner Harui. Harui is an honor student at the academy on a scholarship, and she is first mistaken as a boy and ends up in debt to the host club after destroying a vase. Or vase if you're nasty. To pay off the debt, she must use her body. But it's not that kind of Japanese animation, so instead she just has to play host. While keeping up her ruse, she gets pulled along by the eccentric personalities of these goddamn rich people. Along the way, she does learn that there is more to life than keeping her nose in the book, and forms strong friendships and potential romances. And don't forget the crazy lesbians. Every character that appears in the show is a complete delight to watch and get to know. Even after the 20th viewing, I truly do not tire of it. The only thing that I can complain about is getting goddamn blue-balled. Number 1. Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. This feels cheap to put into the number 1 spot, but honestly, how could I put it anywhere else? With the first repeat studio on this list, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood also comes from Studio Bones and premiered in 2009. It serves as a reboot of the 2003 Full Metal Alchemist anime, but more closely follows the events of the manga, with a few exceptions. For what the plot is, while I'm sure most of you know, it follows Edward and Alphonse Elric as they hunt down the Philosopher's Stone to return their bodies to normal after they attempted human transmutation. They end up getting mixed into a much deeper and darker plot that puts the fate of the entire country on the line. As I said before, I recommend watching all of the anime that I've spoken about in this video, but this one most of all. It may not always be my number one, given the fluid nature of favorites, but I can say that objectively, Full Metal Alchemist is a nearly perfect story. Every level of it is crafted with such love and passion. The world building, the characters, the alchemy, the themes, the plot, the dynamics, the action, they are all impeccable. And that isn't to say that it's flawless, everything has flaws. But when I think of truly amazing, impactful stories, this is right up there with Lord of the Rings for me. It's a timeless classic that I am confident will stand the test of time and remain high up on this list. And with that, those are my top 10 favorite anime. Honestly, I never realized how recent some of these are, but I'm sticking to them. I even made sure to write this script slowly over a few months in case I changed my mind, and it just didn't happen. Let me know your top 10 anime down in the comments below. I'm very interested to find out. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to catch you next time in the void. Later.